Sabres stay right where they were in the NHL Draft Lottery. 11th overall, the ping pong balls falling their way, Paul. What should the Sabres do in the first round?
Rip up your drafts, everything, because you're going to trade it. I'm the GM. I'm trading that pick. I think the Sabres are to the point of their development. They have a good stable of young players, young prospects, high-end young prospects that I think it's time to see what you can get for the 11th overall pick. And you know what? I think I'd be saying this even if it was the first overall pick, is imagine what you could get. Veteran help, which you need. You might be able to get a top 6 guy and a guy for your bottom 6 if you had the first overall pick. So I would definitely be looking to move that pick for good value if I were Kevyn Adams.
And that, Paul, is the next question here. With the 11th overall pick, because they're not first, second, or third or at the top, with the 11th overall pick, what do you think is reasonable, maybe in a package deal, but what do you think that asset could get back in return? I
think, Kevyn Adams had spoken about when the trade deadline came up, about getting a veteran guy, maybe a centerman. And he was talking about he was looking into one maybe. And I got the impression maybe it didn't work because that player had a no movement clause. Now, maybe the no movement clause isn't as big a deal now that you've changed coaches. Maybe you can talk a player into waiving his no movement, because I think around the NHL, players know the Sabres have talent, but now they know it's going to be driven by a different bus driver. So maybe you can get somebody to waive their no movement, whereas before it was like, nah, you know what, we'll pass. Even a guy like Kane, he talked to Kevyn Adams and Granato, and he talked to the Red Wings, he talked to others, but he didn't come to the Buffalo Sabres. He wanted, DeBrincat was a big part of it, but he picked the Detroit Red Wings. Maybe with a different coach, he would have picked the Buffalo Sabres, because Buffalo was absolutely in on that. But Kane decided to go to Detroit. So how much does changing a coach change that idea?
Where should this asset, should they choose to move it, be best utilized? Should they go after forward help, top 6, defense? Where do you think it would be best allocated?
If I'm going to give up the 11th overall pick, I think I need somebody in a top 6. And even if it's a centerman, I'm wondering why Dylan Cozens has never been given a try at left wing. 2 years ago at the World Championship with Team Canada, he played left wing the whole tournament, and he led to Canada in goal scoring. He had 7 goals playing left wing. He has never played left wing with the Buffalo Sabres. He's played right wing, but never left wing. So if you actually get a center and now have Tage Thompson and this guy as your center, maybe instead of putting Cozens down in the bottom 6 as a center, maybe you move him to left wing. Because in my mind, you got a spot there. And so I think there's different things you can do with the roster. So maybe you have this guy, Cozens on the left, Quinn on the right. Now maybe you've got a decent line that can back up Peterka, Thompson, and Tuck. And now teams can't just concentrate on one. So I think there's different options you can get. But I know they got to be harder to play against. But I think if you're going to give up the 11th overall pick, you need more than a bottom 6 guy.
I think they'd riot, Paul, if it was for a bottom 6 guy. And hey, you mentioned Tage Thompson. You saw what a position change did for him and unlocking him and taking him to a next step. Who knows? Maybe that could happen with Dylan Cozens. Let's say they don't trust the Paul Hamilton theory here, and they're like, we're going to stay at 11. I'm not going to ask specific names, but just timeline-wise, to help a team that has now missed the playoffs 13 years in a row, you draft a guy 11th overall. What's realistically the timeline we're dealing with for them to actually contribute to the pro club?
Well, to give folks an idea, last year Zach Benson was a 13th overall pick. It was interesting that 4 players from that draft were playing in the lead. 1, 2, 3, and 13. So you're probably not going to get a guy that's going to help right away. There have been 5 times the Sabres have drafted 11th. Now, Keith Ballard was one of them. Didn't play with the Sabres. He was traded away, but had a pretty good NHL career. David Cooper had no career. Adam Creighton was pretty good. You know, I don't know if he would have plugged in as an 11th overall pick, but they did get the best defenseman in my mind in Sabre history in Mike Ramsey with the 11th overall pick. And Lee Fogelin played almost 1,000 games in the NHL, a lot of them with the Edmonton Oilers, though, when they were that cup-winning team. So you can get a decent player at 11th, but probably not a guy that's going to help you right away. Look at Isak Rozan. He's with the Amerks now, doing well. Has a good opportunity to maybe be a good player for the Sabres, but he's already 2 years in Rochester. Kulik, another first-round pick, already 2 years in Rochester. So if your 11th overall pick is probably 2-3 years down the road, and they need guys now.
Agreed. Just devil's advocate, maybe those names you just mentioned that are on the precipice that are 2-3 years in, maybe those are the guys you trade to go get one of those top 6 guys, and you replenish their place in the pipeline with the 11th overall pick. Paul, we will see what the Sabres do over the next couple months. The draft here, the end of June out in Las Vegas. You lucky duck. You get to spend a couple days out
and the
there on
Sphere.
Yeah,
it's in the Sphere.
Don't get too tripped out. I hear it can get a little trippy in there. Just, you know, we need you on your game here to tell us everything that happens. This is Paul Hamilton. I'm John Scott. We're talking Sabres NHL Draft Lottery.